Welcome back to the channel Coin Dealer, one of the most mind-blowing discoveries in the world of coin collecting, where a humble little 1-cent penny from 1984 in the United States, something you'd expect to be worth no more than its face value of a single cent, has become a jaw-dropping treasure valued at an astonishing $71 million. And the reason behind this staggering leap from pocket change to fortune lies in the intriguing combination of mint errors, striking mistakes, and rare characteristics that set it apart from the billions of ordinary pennies out there. So let's unravel the mystery of how something so small and common could hide such immense value, because to understand it you first have to step into the world of numismatics, where collectors aren't just looking for shiny coins but for pieces of history, anomalies, and tiny imperfections that tell a unique story. And in the case of the 1984 1-cent penny, the heart of its allure begins with what's known as a mint mark error, which is when the little letter beneath the date, usually indicating the city where the coin was minted, is flawed in some way, perhaps doubled, misplaced, or even omitted entirely. And such anomalies are incredibly rare because the US Mint has strict quality control, yet every so often, a coin slips through that defies those standards, and those that do often become legends in the collecting world. And in 1984, a certain batch of pennies left the mint bearing subtle but significant errors. Maybe it's the doubling of the obverse design where Lincoln's profile appears slightly shadowed due to a die misalignment. Maybe it's a repunched mint mark from when the original letter was struck more than once at slightly different angles, or even a case of a floating mint mark that appears detached from its usual position. And when such rare features combine with the fact that the coin remains in pristine, uncirculated condition, you have the perfect storm for collectors to lose their minds in bidding wars, pushing the value into territories that seem almost unreal. But here's the thing, coins like this don't just gain value from one specific error, they often present a cocktail of irregularities that might include variations in the copper content due to a transitional metal composition year, tiny planchette flaws that appear as raised or recessed dots, or even an overall strike that is unusually sharp for that time, making every detail of Lincoln's hair, the date, and the lettering stand out with crisp clarity. And when a coin is already rare due to a minting error, having one in flawless condition, graded by a professional grading service at the highest levels like MS-68 or even MS-69, can make its value skyrocket beyond imagination. So in the case of the 1984 penny that fetched or is estimated to be worth $71 million, its mythos is tied not only to the actual physical imperfections but also to the law, scarcity, and intense demand from high-profile collectors who are willing to pay almost anything to own a piece of minting history. And think about it, out of the millions of pennies struck that year, only a handful would have survived decades without getting scratched, worn, or corroded, and even fewer would display such dramatic and appealing errors, making this an extreme rarity. And this is where the psychology of collecting kicks in, because for many wealthy numismatists, it's not just about the intrinsic metal value, or after all, a penny is mostly copper-plated zinc and not made of precious metals, but about the uniqueness, the bragging rights, and the chance to own something virtually no one else on earth can claim. And over time, as the coin story spreads, it gains even more mystique, becoming almost a legend in its own right, drawing headlines and sparking debates about how a mere cent can transform into a multi-million-dollar prize. And for those who might doubt such values, it's important to remember that the coin market is driven by rarity, condition, and demand, much like the art market, where a canvas might be worth only a few dollars in materials but millions due to the artist and the circumstances of its creation. And in numismatics, when you have a perfect storm of a well-documented minting mistake, impeccable preservation, and a backstory that captures imaginations, the ceiling for value becomes virtually limitless. So while most of us will never stumble upon a $71 million penny in our change jar, stories like the 1984 1-cent treasure fuel the dreams of treasure hunters, hobbyists, and everyday people who can't help but check their pocket change just in case, because you never know when a little copper-colored disc might just be your ticket to unimaginable fortune. And in this way, the 1984 penny stands as a symbol of how small details can make the biggest difference, turning something ordinary into something extraordinary, and reminding us that sometimes the most valuable treasures aren't the ones glittering with gold, but the ones hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to spot their secrets and the right hands to hold their history. We dive into one of the most fascinating and almost unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that starts with what looks like an ordinary 1987 1-cent USA penny, the kind of coin you might pass around without thinking twice, but this particular penny has a twist so extraordinary that it's been valued by collectors and enthusiasts at a staggering $135 million, far beyond its humble 1-cent face value, and the reason behind such an astronomical figure is rooted in a combination of rare errors, minting mistakes, and mysterious anomalies that make it one of the most desirable and talked about coins in numismatic history. And to really appreciate why, we have to start with the basics of how coins are made, because most people don't realize that even the smallest deviation in the minting process can create a unique specimen, and in the case of this 1987 penny, there are several reported factors that come together almost like a perfect storm, starting with the mint mark error, which refers to the small letter stamped on the coin indicating which mint facility produced it, and in this case the mark itself appears in a position or style that is inconsistent with the standard for that year, suggesting either a misalignment of the die or an accidental use of a mint mark intended for a different series or year. And beyond that, there's the matter of the composition anomaly, because while the standard 1987 penny was struck primarily from copper-plated zinc, there have been claims and testing indications that this rare coin may have been accidentally struck on a planchet of a completely different metal, possibly one intended for a foreign coin, which not only changes the weight and feel but also makes it an instant outlier in the production run. And then there's the double strike possibility, where the design has been imprinted twice either partially overlapping or at a slight rotation, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on Lincoln's profile or on the lettering around the rim, something collectors go wild for when the doubling is sharp and clear, and in this case that's reportedly exactly what happened. But the story doesn't stop there, because the surface of this penny shows what some experts believe to be a transitional error, meaning it carries design elements from the year before or after, possibly due to an old die being used accidentally in the early stages of 1987 production, and transitional errors are among the most coveted in coin collecting because they represent a fleeting moment in mint history when the wrong die or blank got through without detection, and when you combine that with an unusual mint mark, off-metal composition, and double strike, you start to understand why this coin is being valued like a rare gemstone rather than a piece of pocket change. And it's worth noting that such a coin could easily slip through into circulation unnoticed, which makes it even more exciting for collectors because there's always the dream that one day someone will find it in a jar of old change or tucked away in a drawer. And while many coins with errors fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars, it's the sheer uniqueness of this particular combination of errors that pushes the value into the stratosphere. And of course the rarity factor is critical here, because if only one or two such pennies exist in the entire world, then their price is dictated almost entirely by the competition between high-end collectors and investors who want to own a piece of numismatic legend. And in the case of the 1987 $135 million penny, that legend is fueled not just by the errors themselves but also by the mystery surrounding how exactly such a mistake could have slipped past the rigorous quality controls of the United States Mint, leading to all kinds of speculation about whether it was an accidental oversight, a deliberate experiment, or even an intentional creation by a mint worker who understood the potential rarity. And stories like this remind us that sometimes the smallest objects can hold the greatest value, that in a world where most coins are mass-produced and nearly identical, the rare few with unique flaws become treasures, and the 1987 penny serves as a perfect example of how history, craftsmanship, human error, and chance can align to produce something truly extraordinary. And whether you're a seasoned collector with decades of experience or just someone who loves the thrill of the hunt, the idea that a coin worth 1 cent on paper could in reality be worth enough to buy a mansion, a luxury yacht, and still have money left over to fill that yacht with jars of ordinary pennies is a reminder that treasures can hide in plain sight. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you get a penny in change, you'll take a closer look, because who knows, you might just be holding the next multi-million-dollar coin without even realizing it, proving once again that in the world of numismatics, anything is possible and history can live right in the palm of your hand. Where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your pocket change. And today we have an absolutely mind-blowing story that will keep you hooked until the very end, because we are talking about a seemingly ordinary 1990 1-cent penny from the USA that has been valued by collectors and experts at an astonishing $230 million. Yes, you heard that right. A coin with a face value of just 1 cent somehow catapulted into the realm of extreme rarity and unimaginable worth, and it's all because of a series of errors, mistakes, and a particularly intriguing mint mark issue that turned this copper-plated zinc coin into a once-in-a-lifetime numismatic marvel. so let's unravel what exactly makes this penny so special and why it stands apart from the billions of other 1-cent coins minted in that same year. Now, to set the stage, we need to understand that in 1990 the Denver Mint, identified by the SD Mint mark, produced hundreds of millions of pennies, most of which were struck without any noteworthy quirks and quickly entered circulation. But among this sea of ordinary coins, a few extremely rare examples emerged that contained such unusual features and minting anomalies that they defied normal expectations, with collectors later discovering that these errors included dramatic off-center strikes, double dies where design elements appeared duplicated or blurred, and the most sensational of all, a mint mark error that has baffled even seasoned experts. Now, the mint mark on US coins is a small letter indicating where the coin was produced, and it's usually punched onto the die before striking, but in rare circumstances mistakes occur, such as the mint mark being omitted entirely when it should be present, being placed in the wrong position, being repunched in a slightly shifted manner causing a shadow effect, or even appearing in a different size or style than the standard for that year. And in the case of this legendary 1990 AD penny, the theory goes that a batch was struck with a completely missing or highly distorted mint mark due to a die preparation error, making them instantly identifiable and extraordinarily scarce. Now, you might be wondering, how could a missing or altered mint mark push a coin's value into the hundreds of millions? And the answer lies in a combination of factors: rarity, historical intrigue, collector demand, and the sheer novelty of the mistake itself, because numismatics, the study and collecting of coins, thrives on the allure of owning something that virtually no one else in the world has, and when a coin combines a high-grade condition, a mysterious backstory, and a confirmed minting blunder, it becomes a magnet for elite collectors and wealthy investors who are willing to pay astronomical sums just to secure it. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. The surviving specimens of this era penny are believed to be in pristine mint state condition, possibly having been pulled aside before circulation or stored away unknowingly for decades. And since coins of this age with absolutely no wear and perfect luster are already rare, finding one that also carries an unprecedented mint mark anomaly essentially makes it a numismatic unicorn. And in auctions, especially those involving passionate bidding wars among deep-pocketed collectors, prices can escalate beyond any rational market value into the realm of pure exclusivity and prestige. Another intriguing aspect that boosts this penny's mystique is the uncertainty around exactly how many exist, with some experts suggesting fewer than 5 have ever surfaced, and others speculating there might be only one verified authentic specimen in the world, which would mean whoever owns it holds an irreplaceable piece of US minting history. And to put things into perspective, there are famous coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1794 Flowing Hair Dollar that have fetched millions at auction precisely because of their rarity and historical significance. Yet the 1990 D penny's appeal is magnified by the fact that it's a modern coin that could theoretically still be found in circulation, adding an element of treasure hunting excitement that keeps coin enthusiasts constantly checking their change. So imagine stumbling upon a penny in your change jar, only to realize it's one of the rarest and most valuable coins in existence, and that's the dream scenario driving the legend of the $230 million penny. Now, of course, not every odd-looking 1990 AD penny is going to be worth a fortune, because the coin's value depends on precise characteristics being verified by reputable grading services like PCGS or NGC, who will examine the coin under magnification to confirm the nature of the mint error, its originality, and its overall grade. And if it meets the criteria for the rare mint mark error in flawless condition, then and only then could it enter the elite tier of value. But the possibility is enough to make anyone want to double-check their old coin jars. And while skeptics might dismiss such valuations as exaggerated hype, the numismatic market has repeatedly shown that when the right combination of rarity, demand, and historical quirk align, coins can achieve staggering prices that defy ordinary logic. And that's exactly why the 1990 D 1-cent penny with its legendary mint mark mistake remains one of the most talked about and sought-after coins among collectors, a humble copper-colored disc that tells a story of human error, chance survival, and the relentless passion of those who treasure history captured in metal. And whether you believe the $230 million figure or not, one thing is certain: this penny proves that sometimes the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises, and you never truly know the value of what's in your pocket until you take a closer look.